What's going on, Internet? Nuclear Ninjas here, and today we're going to be checking out Venomoth in Ultra Premier. Venomoth is a bug poison type that fully maxes out at 2382 with Best Buddy. Bug poison is actually a pretty solid typing with double resistances to both grass and fighting, as well as a resistance to charm. This gives me positive matchups against popular meta picks like Venusaur, Scrafty, Obstagoon, and pretty much anything with charm. I ran Venomoth with Infestation, Poison Fang, and Psychic. This is a legitimately good moveset as it can reach Poison Fang in just 9 turns. I paired Venomoth with Obstagoon running Counter, Cross Chop, Night Slash, and Swampert running Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, and Earthquake. Venomoth struggles against Steel, Fire, Psychic, and Rock. I have Steel and Rock double counter with my backline, and Psychic and Fire both have 1 counter and 1 neutral matchup, making this a balanced team. With that said, let's get into the battles. Picking up our first match against Ushikai Boy, and it is Venomoth into Mandibuzz. So this is obviously not good for Venomoth because A, Mandibuzz is just a tankier Pokemon, and B, we are going to be taking super effective from Aerial Ace. I had a feeling they were going to want to over farm there, so I went ahead and let them swapped 1 late and successfully caught the Aerial Ace. Now the opponent goes out to a Nidoqueen, and I'm going to go ahead and Night Slash them because Cross Chop is resisted, but this is looking like, okay, I lost the lead, and I'm probably not going to be able to flip switch here. Obstagoon potentially can flip this matchup with a boost, but that's pretty much the only way you can manage that. And I am not getting the boost here, so this one is definitely not looking good at this point. Potentially, if they have something super weak to Swampert in the back, there could be a chance, but definitely not looking good. We come in with Swampert to start mudshotting down on the theory that Swampert, if I have a win con, Swampert is the win con at this point. We unfortunately shield a Poison Fang right there. That could have been an Earth Power, but they're not going to be able to get to another Earth Power here after baiting, so I just let this go through. It has to be a Poison Fang. They don't even have the energy for Earth Power. We take him out. I'm double debuffed at this point, so I swap instantly to Venomoth, and we get counter swapped to Talonflame. And this is pretty much looking like a GG because Venomoth has no play against this team. We go for the Psychic here, maybe hoping, hey, if they let it go, we could completely nuke this thing. But honestly, I don't even think Psychic would have KO'd there. And then the opponent decides to Flame Charge. And I actually, in retrospect, screwed up. I probably should have thrown a Hydro Cannon before swapping with Swampert, because if I'd thrown the Hydro Cannon first, I could have overfarmed a bit here against Talonflame and come out of that with, well, there would have already been a Hydro Cannon worth of damage on the Mandibuzz, and then I could have come out of that Talonflame matchup with a ton of energy on Swampert. So a little bit of a misplay on my part, but I'm just going to play this out and see how it goes, and they have Dark Pulse, so the next Dark Pulse is definitely going to KO, and we need 3 Hydro Cannons here, so honestly, it's just not quite happening. I very much regret not throwing the Hydro Cannon before swapping Swampert out there. That potentially would have given me a win con, but oh well, everyone makes mistakes. So picking up our next battle really fast there, we get a match against Death Guide K. And we get Venomoth into Galarian Stunfisk. This is absolutely terrible, so I'm going to go into Obstagoon. The good news is we have Galarian Stunfisk double countered in the back, and our opponent swaps to Venusaur, which Venusaur is their Swampert counter. So Swampert is looking real strong to close, and we get the boost. So forget about just relying on Swampert to close endgame. We're going to go ahead and flip switch here because Obstagoon with the boost can do that against almost anything. Basically, Obstagoon with the boost can flip switch against pretty much anything but a Charmer and most counter users. So unfortunately, we get a CMP tie there. If I'd been paying closer attention, I would have farmed a little bit more before getting the CMP tie on that, and potentially had some more energy coming out of this matchup, but able to Night Slash here. We get a second boost and counter down the Venusaur. Our opponent goes out to Roserade, and we're going to get to a Night Slash against this Roserade before it's able to take us down. And this is looking like a win pretty much entirely on the strength of Boostagoon. If we hadn't gotten the boost, Venusaur would have kept switch, and then this Roserade would have been aligned against Swampert, and that would pretty much be GG. I come into Venomoth here basically just to soak these weather balls and make sure that he doesn't have enough energy to do anything against Swampert. I believe, did I see this thing had Poison Jab? Yeah, it has Poison Jab, so the quick moves actually aren't adding up. And right as we get to the Hydro Cannon, they swap and catch on the G-Fisk. And that's not going to help them though, because now we can just farm up a ton of energy on Swampert. Earthquake does not KO. This is a rank 1 Shadow Swampert with incredible IVs. So, see, casually take an Earthquake, farm up to 2 Hydro Cannons, 1 Hydro Cannon for the G-Fisk, and that Roserade is low enough that the Shadow Hydro Cannon damage is going to be plenty to take it out. So, sorry to my opponent about the boosts. That was definitely a bit of a lucky battle, but luck's part of the game. My opponents don't back out when they get the boost, so I'm not going to back out when I get the boost either. Picking up a match against Alex Potato Baker, and Venomoth into A9. Please be Charm, please be Charm. It is Charm, so this is an absolutely beautiful matchup, and you're going to see why. Basically, we resist the charms and we can just spam these Poison Fangs into the A9. We actually get a shield with the first Poison Fang. And they go to Crobat. I'm going to counter swap Swampert. Swampert doesn't have a particularly great matchup against Crobat. It's just a neutral matchup. We do resist the Poison Fangs though. And Swampert, you can see Hydro Cannon's a 2-hit KO. And Swampert's so spammy, this is going to be positive. They throw the Shadow Ball. I figured I was up on shields there, so it was completely fine for me to spend a shield in that situation. And then I'm like, yeah, dude, I wasn't born yesterday. This is just a Poison Fang. I can count. And able to overfarm a ton of energy before going for this Hydro Cannon here, which means whatever he brings back in, whether he chooses to come back in with the Charm A9 or if he wants to go to something else, we are going to be able to punish quite a bit. So he actually, this is an Exeggutor. That's a unique pick. You don't see a lot of Exeggutors. Unfortunately, like a Scrub, I managed to go down with a full Hydro Cannon of energy. The Charm A9 comes back out, and I think one Charm went through on the Obstagoon, but we're able to make the swap to Venomoth and start going with these Poison Fangs. And keep in mind, Poison Fang debuffs your defense, so the second Poison Fang is going to do even more than the first Poison Fang. On second thought, the second Poison Fang is going to get a shield, and I do potentially screw up a little bit here because I was thinking, okay, they threw the Charm, we can manage this, and yeah, I forgot that they had actually farmed up a little bit before swapping at the beginning of the match, so they're already to a second Weather Ball. But no big deal, Cross Chop is going to be coming through and dealing big damage to the A9, not quite taking it out. The opponent swaps to Exeggutor. Whatever, Seed Bomb isn't going to do too much, and Psychic is double resisted, so now I just have to get to this Night Slash, and that's going to take out the Exeggutor, and then I can just counter down the A9 with 3 counters, or possibly 4 counters, but okay, we get the boost. Now, just for the record, that boost did not matter in that particular instance, because you'll notice he was left with like 1 HP after 2 counters. If I hadn't gotten the boost, it would have been 3 counters to do that much damage, and then the 4th counter would have still KO'd from the like 1 HP range. So 4 counters is faster than 3 charms. That's still a win, even without the boost, but it was still cool to see. Picking up a match against Relvar, and we get Venomoth into Stunfisk again. So terrible lead, but we do have him double countered in the back. We go to Obstagoon, and our opponent goes, wait, you have a Venomoth? Okay, I respect the spice, take a free win. And that is the power of spice. Sometimes people just hand you free wins because you're running a Venomoth and for no other reason. Anyway, battling Michael Ngo. It's weird, I swear I recognize that name from somewhere, but I was trying to look for it online and couldn't find it, so I don't know, I definitely feel like I'm battling someone famous right now, and we pick up what would normally be a pretty positive lead, but in this case, the opponent is running Smackdown Chestnut. If it was Vine Whip Chestnut, this would be a super dominant matchup for Venomoth. As is, it's still pretty good. We're going to get to 3 Poison Fangs before they can completely Smackdown down. And This is going to put them very low. I actually, interestingly enough, they snuck a smackdown in on my first Poison Fang. If I denied a fast move every time, I could have actually simultaneously KO'd that matchup, although the opponent probably would have thrown energy if they realized they were going to be simultaneously KO'd. Anyway, they had a ton of energy there, but I come in with Obstagoon and just go ahead and sneak a counter through Shield 1 Superpower, and I'm good. So up a shield, but down on switch. We bring in Swampert and catch a Poison Fang. That wasn't a totally clean catch, so the opponent might just decide to throw anyway there. And now we're farming up a bit of energy, throwing the Hydro Cannon. This is not going to quite take out the Crobat, but it is going to deal solid damage. And now we've got Crobat in the red, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is just another Poison Fang, not a big deal. Poison Fang comes through on Swampert. We've still got some health left, and we are going to get off another Hydro Cannon to take out the Crobat. And I'm curious what they have in the back, because they didn't swap out of that matchup. Okay, Swampert dies instantly to a Confusion, and now it is Obstagoon versus Gallade. They're at a close combat. They've got 6 Confusions worth of energy. And I'm like, all right, I think back-to-back Night Slashes KOs, so this should be a win, right? Okay, and turns out back-to-back Night Slashes does not quite KO. We sneak a counter through there, and I have to call this. If it's a close combat, it's a Leaf Blade. Huge call there, and we are able to farm down. The opponent had a close combat loaded there, but they couldn't have thrown it because I had a shield, so I would have just obviously shielded the close combat. So picking up a 4-1 with Venomoth, but let's be honest, it was basically a 3-1 because we were given a free win by one of our opponents. Overall, I had a blast running Venomoth. It's not a meta monster that you're going to throw on any team and climb to the leaderboards with, but I was able to maintain a winning record over multiple sets at a 3000 plus rating. Venomoth put in work most of the battles, providing coverage against Grass, Charm, and Counter. My main complaint about this team is that it's fairly rock, paper, scissors, so I'm going to try to design a Venomoth team that has a better ability to dance around difficult situations. Like the video if you enjoyed, dislike if you hated it, and subscribe if you want to see more like this in the future.